Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Today is 39th of April. It's also Holy Thursday for those who recognize that occasion. It is a very bright and sunny morning here in COVID pandemic island of Trinidad and Tobago. My name is Felicia Holder, your host of the program Monday to Friday and the chairman of Progressive Empowerment Party. Joining me on the program this morning, we have a very dynamic panel of PEP women who are going to give you guys a nice heavy hitting show this morning. To my right, well, next to me, you will see Michelle Davis, our deputy party organizer. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Below Michelle, you should see Lima McLeod Wilkinson, our deputy, one of two deputy political leaders and co-chair of the youth arm. Good morning, Lima.
Good morning. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
And next to Lima, you should see Alberta Stacey Perdine, who is the caretaker for Barataria Sawan, also joining us this morning. Good morning, Alberta.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Morning, everyone.
Ladies, thank you for joining me again this morning. Before I jump into the program, I would like to mention and say thank you to Akil Camps and Matthew Gibbs, who would have held down the remainder of the show yesterday for me when I had a massive network outage in my area. I called my network provider, which is Flu, and I let them know I do a show every morning from 8 to 10, so try to deal with their networks anytime before or after that. So hopefully today the broadcast is going to be a little bit better because I definitely have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about. So, yesterday, in what I consider a massive victory for us as the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and it is the main topic this morning, the private security firm contract that was announced by our National Security Minister less than 48 hours ago has officially been announced as the people of Trinidad and Tobago, activists, and mainly the Progressive Party led the charge on pushing back on what we felt was an unnecessary, expensive, and redundant service offered where we have our TTPS and regimental ladies. What do you all feel about this issue for citizens in Tobago?
Well, it was quite a victory for the citizens of this country. I mean, I felt extremely proud. I stayed on social media yesterday because it was just so riveting to see people's feedback and people standing up for what is definitely the wrongs in this country, particularly that one. I mean, if that was a clear indication of the favoritism that continues for the 1% in this country. And again, the government simply just neglects the 99% population. It was, it basically, we saw the whole KFC issue right out, but basically what they did is they turned around and compensated them with a security contract. These are the same people that own these companies. So it was yesterday, I felt proud. I hope citizens realize that we do have the power to make the wrongs in this country right. And we deserve the best, and we need to put a stop to the continued favoritism of an elite group of people in this country.
It also shows, the disrespect to the other, you know, forces in the country. You want to make your own decision. You consult with TTPS. You didn't even consult with your regiment, your air guard, your other services that you have there. So why make such a decision? How did you choose those four security companies though? So you're opening up such a little loopholes all over the place. This would have also led to things like people wanting to take out lawsuits against if amalgamated or one of them was to wrongfully arrest somebody or beat up somebody because we have seen videos of them being very forceful and above the law. So who was to say they would not have been doing that now with this quote unquote I'm TTPS now. What you gonna do? Right? So it's all these different
Correct.
things. They
Yes.
need to be more mindful, but again it goes to show that they really just don't care and it's all about them. You're finding money for all these 1% games, monopoly games and chess pieces, but then you're not finding the money to help your very vulnerable people. You couldn't pay your pensioners earlier in the month. Wait till the last day of the month. So you had the old people up and down, getting check here to go in bank and all kind of things. These are the things that people need to open their eyes and start seeing. You're making it very accessible for the 1% to get the treasury money, but our own citizens have to be up and down and all over the place and begging and fighting for crumbs.
Exactly. That money that would have been awarded to these private contract firms would have been good to invested back into the economy and communities as well for food independence and all those things because we are in a crisis right now, globally, and we need to think smart and also logical at the same time. So
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yesterday showed us that the citizens of this country, Trinidad and Tobago, stood for their rights, and we will continue to stand for our rights.
I have a screenshot here by the Minister of National, I read from the Minister of National Security. And what I think was him admitting his failure and need to be removed from office by his admission in this paragraph only, where he said it is impossible to have police and defense force resources in every neighborhood and on every corner doing what needs to be done. So, this gesture of having private security patrols was meant to be in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. If you, as the Minister of National Security, your reason for hiring four private security firms is that you are not able to secure every citizen and every neighborhood, isn't that you admitting that there's no need for you to have a job anymore and that you failed?
Yes.
It, it,
Yes, it
it,
is. So I
exactly.
Yes,
think
along
I,
we're
that
talking about
same context,
security
yes.
because you already admitted that the Coast Guard is ineffective, right? There was a BBC report where they said our Ghost Guard. Come on, hold on, as soon as that, and you as national security did not fix that, right? And now you're saying that we cannot use our own regiment. So what is the purpose of the regiment then? To look nice in the uniform for independence.
but we saw yesterday I referenced several articles when we were discussing several. I mean, the world is using their regiment and
Military, yes.
military in several capacity. They're using it for logistics. They're using it for people patrol, which is one of the reasons why we called out these security firms, and they're also using this for medical reasons, transportation, logistics of goods and supplies. So all of these essential transportation positions could have been taken up by the military in that capacity in terms from a logistical standpoint. But we didn't explore that option because we never explore any feasible first world option. We said,
Yeah.
you know what, let's go with spending more money where we don't have. We are now continually operating in the hole. We're probably averaging, 16 to 20 billion dollars at a deficit. And we had the audacity, this government had the audacity to say, let's spend an estimated $87,000 per patrol when citizens are already inside. There has been actually crime has gone down. And we
Yep.
just don't think we're constantly in how to get money. It's an eat a food mentality, and we all know what that is. You hear that referred to governance. We never think of the people of this country. We're constantly think of the financiers.
But it's not even eat a food, that is pure robbery. High class robbery.
Correct.
Because we will
Shit and tie
glorify
robbery.
when the black little boy get killed by the gang members or whatever the case is. But when the 1% of them doing their bullshit with monopoly chess piece players and they call in the finance minister to organize whatever. Because let's face it, that is what they do. There was no round table discussion with all these security firms and tender put out and all of that. So obviously, it's phone call and we will do this and we will do that. And yes, 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 and so forth. So what message are they trying to say? They don't care. They're just doing. That is robbery.
But I mean, the very fact that you can call them up the day after and say, hey guys, the contract that we awarded you yesterday is now officially cancelled, points to some under the table kind of behavior and activity because as far as I know, in a proper tenders and procurement process, contracts need to be drafted, management of change documents need to be signed, people need to be briefed. None of that seemed to have happened. There seemed to have been a backroom
And what would
discussion
have been the
amongst
terms
these
and
security
conditions?
firms. Exactly. What were your terms and conditions of operating? I mean, the Minister of National Security put out this very hurried report on Tuesday that we are now hiring private security firms. That, of course, raised a slew of questions from the population, from people wanting to know, okay, what say what? I mean, I mentioned on the program yesterday that we had several media briefings, and at no point was there any indication, was there um, any hint that there was going to be this service added into our COVID-19 pandemic response. So when he came out of nowhere and mentioned, hey, guess what? We hired 4 security firms, private security firms. Everybody was asking why and how and when was this decision made? And of course, when these slew of questions came in to mitigate that, he put out a following release, which was about a paragraph long that said these people have no powers. Because that's the first question people were asking. You're hiring
Yeah.
private security firms. What exactly are they going to do? And I'm reading here in the Express where he said the truth is the pandemic brings additional strain on our government resources. Now, you're admitting that the
Isn't
pandemic
the
is
money
expensive.
a strain on the
Admitting that
resource too?
it's straining the resources. Exactly, Lemma. Isn't the money a strain on our resources too?
And then it's 87
Exactly.
per patrol. How many patrols per day?
How
You have
many
4
patrols? So
different firms.
actually,
So
I'm
let's say
waiting to
4
sit on
patrols
my chair
per
outside and
day
see
per
and count
firm.
how many vans I saw driving around. At no point in time were these private security firms going to be patrols going to be armed. At no point were they going to be given any additional powers or any legal authority whatsoever. So what was the point?
Just for them to make money.
What
Waste of
was the
money. Yes, exactly.
And
Waste of
another thing people
resources,
were
singularly.
asking, was there any cancellation fee? Yes, you
Mm.
stop a contract abruptly. I mean, was it even signed? We
he said?
don't know. This is the
Well, he said there
nonsense.
was none. He said there was none. That there was no cost to Trinidad and Tobago. That nothing. We won't lose anything. But to be honest, I don't know point. This is a decision that was made overnight that nobody had any idea about until the following day when it came out in the public space. I can't tell what is true from what is not true at this point because that particular move that they made created a level of distrust like no other. I mean, it's not like I trusted them before, but that move that they make pointed to the fact that there seems to be a very small group of people making decisions that are impacting the entire country but
Yes.
benefiting very few.
And the thing
Correct.
about
It
it is
makes you
that they
wonder who is
also have
actually
to look,
running the country.
yeah, but they
Yeah,
also have
it
to look
makes you
now at
wonder
the
who.
backlash this going to cause to the TTPS because they're gonna now go back to being demotivated. You don't know when these people salary negotiations for 7 years. They operating under
Mhm.
lack of tools, equipment, training, proper dietary means. You don't have basic things for the police. And then you're going and pull this stunt. What you think you're going to do to the men and women out there who already have to deal with rogue police officers, corruption, and all of this? Come on, man. They don't think. They don't care. And as a Minister of National Security, he was supposed to know better, but then Stuart Young does not know anything about national security. Why is he Minister of it? He is a
Because they
lawyer.
had
Stupid.
to fill a position. They had to fill a position. and they filled it, and that's what they're doing. I mean, I've been questioning from day one. If you notice, those that are in charge do not have formal experience in the ministry they're assigned to.
Yeah.
So you know
Yes.
that they switch like, you're just, I don't even know how to describe it. They switch them around, but the formal
Hmm.
background, the formal experience, I'm not even talking education wise. I'm just talking, do you have experience in this ministry to guide the country accordingly? And we
Yeah.
see that
And
we see Stuart Young. He's just minister of everything. But again,
Yeah.
the deep issue is, why has this government not addressed the procurement bill? Why haven't they brought that forward? Is because simply because it will not benefit them nor their financiers. If we
Yeah.
propose a robust tender process, there was absolutely no tender process in that less than 24 hours that security contract was given. It was not
Yeah.
announced, it was not advertised, and we continue to manage on a fluke. We continue to manage as though there are not citizens, that there needs to be transparency, that we need to be accountable. Where are we spending this money? But the real issue is just like Lima said, they just don't care.
Yeah.
They
And
don't.
correct.
And
So it
Michelle,
makes
you
you
mentioned,
wonder.
you're watching
I know we have
how
a lot to contribute this morning. Go ahead, Alberta.
Go ahead. It makes you wonder who's actually governing the country. Are we governed by the 1%? Are we?
obviously.
Because that was a blatant disrespect to every single citizen in this country, showing us that, hey, what, I can award these four private security firms this contract, and we go on about our lives. That was a blatant disrespect, and we will not be tolerating it anymore. We will stand for our rights because this is our country, this is our home country. Go
I
ahead,
would have
Lama.
liked to hear what the other security firms who were not selected, their opinion on this. Hello
Well, they
security.
weren't
All
even
the other fly
considered.
by night.
I would as well, and Michelle, you
Why
mentioned something
discrimination?
earlier that I wanted to touch on, which is that we have members of parliament acting as ministers in areas that they have no expertise in. And that, I think Stuart Young is a very good example of that, because
The
the
Minister of
member of
Finance.
parliament for Port Spain North for St. Anne's West. And yeah, a lot of them in that cabinet, in that parliament, are operating in ministerial positions that they obviously have no expertise in. And that's one of the things that in terms of the Progressive Empowerment Party and their ideas of separating the executive from the legislature, that I have to absolutely agree with, because you need experts to talk to areas that they are experts in. You don't put who is an expert in to deal with an area, an expert in chicken. You have to, I mean, that is a very basic and simplistic example, but you put experts where they belong. And the fact that we have a minister of national security who has no background in national security points to the fact that we just moving around pieces on a chessboard with no clear aim of getting anywhere.
The
Well,
aim,
Felicia,
however,
hence
is
the
to
reason we
reward
continue
them
to
with
manage.
money. You put
Right.
your friends and your family in key places so they could eat a food, they could benefit. The individual people benefit. The country, however, doesn't benefit. And that shows where they don't care, and that it doesn't matter to them anymore. Their sunset, they get through. So they tomorrow through that crash, they could fly out and go. For all you know, when elections over, if this government does not win, the prime minister might go Ghana to live. Who knows?
Eat some yam.
Yeah, dance older, I don't know.
I want to call out the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, and I really address you by your full title, because I don't think you are deserving of my recent citizens. But I'm address directly to you, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. I want to call you out on your proclamation on your name that the security contract, the reason why you had to cancel this private security firm contract was because it was causing race wars and racial division Trinidad and Tobago. No, that's not why you had to cancel the security contract. You had to cancel the security contract less than 24 hours before you issued the security contract because you realized that the people of Trinidad and Tobago were not having none of your bullshit. They were having none of the lies that were being put out into the public space, which is how we needed these comfort patrols at the time. And the fact that you call this a race issue points to the fact that you're very blinded as to what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, or you are purposefully being ignorant as to what is taking place. No, it wasn't cancelled because there was an issue of racial division in Trinidad and Tobago. And actually, the racial division that occurred one day prior, you remain absolutely silent on, which is that issue of the doubles versus KFC. And as a leader of this country, as the prime minister of this country, you absolutely disappointed me when you refused and stayed silent on that issue, which led to the actual vandalization of the Source Doubles establishment. And again, to this date, I have yet to hear you make a statement. I have yet to hear you denounce the actions of those people who took it into their own hands to go and destroy these people's businesses. And you, as the Prime Minister of this country, rather than unite us, like you claim to be saying, seem to be very hell-bent on dividing us along racial lines. So as a Prime Minister, please do better. I understand that race is the last card that you guys have to keep us separated and fighting, but the people are pushing back. And from what we can see yesterday, we are winning. And that's my message to you, Keith Christopher Rowley. I had that prepared.
Well said, Felicia. Well said.
That is like PNM
Yes.
mantra from donkey years. That is just how they are. I don't understand how it's not. People have not seen this over time. Every single time PNM is in office, all they do is support their financiers and to hell with the citizens. And it's only when it's election time then they start paving the roads and doing all kind of stupidness to fool the sheep. And then
Exactly.
you're coming with comments like recalcitrant minority and all these foolishness that you know already has a stigma to it because of how Eric Williams used it. Why would you use that now? It's the same way people have a problem with Oreo and all kind of foolishness. You just don't do those things. The day after this whole thing, he was supposed to eat a doubles the morning after. And if I was his chef, I would have make sure he eat doubles that morning.
And and that's the thing, Highlanders said a whole lot to me. And yesterday, during that media briefing, I remember listening and waiting to hear them say something. I remember at no point did they say, guys, hold up, for all of you who think we make policy decision based on the guidance of Source Doubles. No, you all are wrong. We made this decision with health and safety of citizens in mind. Please don't attack each other on Facebook. We didn't shut down restaurants because of one man complaining. We shut down because we wanted everybody. We felt that it should be fair across the board. We also felt that the security was more important than food delivered or cooked for them on the outside at this time. You didn't do that. You had the opportunity and you did not do it. As a prime minister of this country, in my opinion, Keith Rowley failed. He failed yesterday, he failed the day before, and he's going to fail tomorrow because he does not understand that his responsibility to us as the citizens, his responsibility is our well-being. His responsibility is ensuring that we have an equal play, not ensuring that some eat more than some and some have more than some. And that security contract that they were trying to pass under the table in front of our eyes was testament to that, because who was actually benefiting from that? Who was really going to be the people benefiting from that contract where they had no powers, but they were just going to be patrolling our neighborhood? And I listened to Gary Griffith say this was not my decision.
Just to watch, to observe. What was the purpose of the patrol though? To observe? You can't roll up on a block and see guys and be like, hey, go inside, and then they pull out their fully automatic where you leave breads. I just hear doing what the Prime Minister said to do.
No, they were going to shake their batons at us and say, we're going to tell TPS on you. I honestly don't know but that it was cancelled. And I want to move into this topic now because tonight on Plain Talk, we are going to have Mr. Fazir Mohammed, who is, and everybody should know, is the host of the TV6 Morning Edition show, a very fearless and unbiased man, if you ask me. I listened to a piece of his speech yesterday to this issue with the private security patrols. And I spoke to him yesterday on the phone and I said, Fazir, congratulations. And I thank you for standing up for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And he said, we have to make a stand at some point. And I really congratulate him for that. And tonight Philip is going to have him on his Plain Talk show at 8 p.m. because, and this is the topic I wanted to move into, we really need to, I hope yesterday showed the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago that they have so much more power than they could ever imagine. And I mean, if we didn't know it before, we should have known that whole sauce and KFC doubles issue came up because inadvertently, yes, KFC was shut down because of the noise made, but it done in a very bad mind, throw a tantrum kind of way by the prime minister, and that was an incident. That was an example of the power of the people. Yes, but I think this one, the one where we got the government, we got cabinet to reverse this decision on the private security firm contracts. I think that was an example of a positive example of just how much power we have as a, and also of social media today. And that's something that I have to big up because Stuart Young has this way of talking about turning off social media. Had it not been for social media, I don't think this message would have been as resounding as it was.
He should be the last one to talk about
The
anything
power,
with his
correct.
stepdaughter issues with drugs and whatever. So he needs to pump his brakes.
The government, a government supposed to work for the people of the country, not work against the people. And we have the power to make it happen. We just have to stand up now for our rights and continue doing what's best for the country.
I think the citizens of the country have realized, I mean, we all need to look at this from an individual standpoint, and it does not know race. We are all experiencing the same issue. And I think that's what led to that outcry yesterday. Right now, each one of us, regardless of race, creed, religion, are experiencing the same uncertainty in this country. We are all experiencing, there are people hungry right now. I mean, and it should be
Correct.
of great concern to us. Those people that were living, day to day, they are hungry now. It's been about 2 weeks right now, since the official, shutdown has been called. What are we doing for these citizens? And instead, we choose to shove down their face wastage of millions, and you have single mothers, single fathers, families that were barely holding on prior to this pandemic. And now we're looking, so we need to realize as citizens, the race card is no longer relevant anymore. We need to realize that we need to stand above this race card that the two political parties seem to thrive on, and realize we all are experiencing the same issue.
Yeah.
Correct.
I just
Exactly.
saw
Yeah.
where the government spent 46 million on, helping families, but you're not seeing this 46 million where people still can't access the grants. So where's this 46 million?
What was the 46
Hmm.
million spent on?
I don't know, those text messages you get for news on morning? That's what I got it on, and
Mm-hmm.
I saw that 46 million. So
And it
it's
did
like,
not
where
give a
are you
breakdown.
spend this money? No.
Okay. No breakdown of it. Okay.
It is interesting to know, to be real honest with you, where did that $46 million go? What was it spent on? Because yesterday someone tagged me, or Philip sent me a link to a young lady who was on Facebook talking about just how hard things are for her during this COVID-19 issue. I mentioned looting yesterday on the program, and then I heard that Yips, Susanna's, and what was the other business? I believe it was Yips, Susanna's, and Lucky Dollar was vandalized in Port of Spain yesterday.
Mhm.
Well, not vandalized, looted in Port of Spain yesterday. And it's no longer something that we're talking about coming. It's something that is actually happening. People are
Right.
in of desperation and they are doing what they have to do to survive. I'm not doing these actions at all. This is a reality we saw it coming before this pandemic, before this entire thing happening now. So I'm asking the question of
Mhm.
the government. I'm addressing you. Where is that $46 million going? Is it going into the care packages with the PNM stamp on it? Because if that's the case, there are people in my community who could benefit from it. So before you put your logo on something, study the fact that there are many other people who are not able to provide and who are still awaiting the assistance and the grants that you claim to be giving out. I listened to that media briefing yesterday and it sounded like the same media briefing we heard 3 weeks ago. A lot of talk, a lot of talk, a lot of talk, and no real action. Because when you ask the people on
Yeah.
the ground, are you getting help? No. Can you access the grants? It's easier to fill out and get you to get a US visa than to get a grant. So what are we
Hmm.
really doing? Where are we really
Yeah.
spending that money?
Yeah.
We continue to let the bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy is intentional, and we need to understand that as citizens of this country. Right now, that grant is probably not going to be dispersed till after this COVID-19, basically goes down in Trinidad, because the bureaucracy behind it is going to take weeks. Right now, they're proudly advertising the form is available. What about those citizens that don't have access to their employer right now? What about those citizens that don't have access to a printer to print all these documents and all the
Yeah.
copies that you need to take? What about these citizens that can't go to these establishments because they're home taking care of their children? Why don't we think proactively? We have a National Insurance Board database. We have majority of citizens that have worked in there. We can utilize that said information that has all the requirements and simply disperse the money to the accounts that we have available. But instead, we choose to just again make it harder on the average citizen. And when you look at these are not going to be dispersed for another 2 to 3 weeks minimum, and people are starving right now.
Yeah. Another thing that they do take into consideration is the fact that, we have a lot of people who don't know how to read and write. So filling out those forms will be an issue for some of them. Our next issue is we have a Minister of Social Development who is completely out of touch with the people on the ground. And in order to solve this, they need to go and sit down and go through each form and each process to see, okay, where the shortcomings are and where the shortfalls are. But could you see Camille Robinson Regis doing that? No, we
Camille
can't.
Robinson Regis right now is on a repeated loop saying the same thing that she's been saying for the past 3 weeks. You can access the grants via online forms. And I listened to her saying that people are coming into the offices. Of course, people are coming into the offices. If I don't have internet, if I don't have a printer at home, and you're telling me that in order to access a grant, I need this, I will come to you as my MP. I will come to you as my Minister of Social Development and Family Services. Of course, they're going to come into your office when you're not making it easier for them. I'm asking this question: how are they engaging the local the our local government to assist in this relief program? Because I hope it's not they're not politicizing it like they do everything and say I'm not using the local councils, because not only local councils are PNM councils, so I don't want to involve them. I hope not, because this is about, when to say this is not about politics. Now is the time to say this is not about politics. You have over how many local ministers we have in this country? We have, well, I don't want to call the wrong number, but I know it is well over 100 local government ministers. That
Right.
number may even be quite smaller than actually is. But using those networks, can't we reach out and give relief to the people who actually need it? I am sure those local councillors have lists of people within their communities who are at risk who are unemployed or underemployed or who have children who would have been impacted by the school feeding grants. I heard somebody say that yes, some people get relief, but are all the people who are impacted getting relief? Again, this is a country, this is a community, this is a country where many people live below the line, and it is a pandemic. It is a situation that is impacting us. Our responsibility as a country, as a nation, the government's responsibility is ensuring that as many people as possible benefit from these relief grants. And I'm happy for those who may have gotten, if they did indeed get. Again, I'm just hearing what I'm hearing on social media. Who aren't accessing the relief grants? What is their position today? Are they the ones that we're seeing looting and vandalizing businesses?
But the thing about it is though, it's showing you where local government and your MP, there's no sync, there's no coordination between the two. If you as a minister have to tell your councillor, get out there, then something is wrong. First of all, for the last local election, I still don't know who my councillor is for my area. And apparently they won, PNM, Yippee, and I still don't know who my counselor is. I haven't seen any of them walking around. The only counselor I have seen actually posting up stuff online and doing things is the one for Belmonte. And that probably is very rare because you really don't see, these kind of things. So for now, I really don't know what's happening. You're not seeing them walk about. You're not seeing that. And this is their time. This is what they are supposed to be doing.
Correct.
Also,
The
what is
people need them
ODPM
more than
doing?
ever now.
What is
Yes.
ODPM doing? You haven't even heard the director say, well, we have this, that, the other, nothing. This is disaster.
But I personally
Also,
wouldn't even trust that because the favoritism, because of the way the local government is set out, as
yeah,
Felicia indicated, it is politicized. So you're going to have the UNC counselors, you're going to have the PNM counselors, and they're going to give to those people. That is, we know that's how it works in local government. They're going to give to their people. And again, the average citizen suffering gets lost in between because they don't know or they don't have contact. So the local government will be failure in this case because I've been a direct victim of the local government system and the counselor basically refusing to hear my complaint because his I'm not the party that he affiliates with and passes me every day. So they're failures. They're not going to be objective. They're not going to reach out to the citizens as required. They're going to give to their people. And that's how it continues to go. We need to find a system. There are countries, Canada, for example, they're dispersing to every citizen, every resident, $2,000, regardless, 2,000 Canadian dollars for the next 4 months. They have a database and they will work off of it, right? Why are we continuing it to make it hard? That woman in the video was cringing to watch. It brought tears to my eyes because, I don't know that hunger. But there are people in this country, and we, as the Progressive Empowerment Party, we have been preaching on the negative impact of poverty in this country. And we are seeing it now play out, our worst nightmares being played out. People are hungry, children are
yeah,
hungry, right? And it should not have come to this point. We were a once oil rich nation that each citizen should be in a much better position. But instead, we're talking about basic, basic food items of rice and flour. We should be ashamed of ourselves. Those in power should be ashamed of themselves, of how they have governed this country for the past 57 years.
yeah. And the thing about it is,
Um,
you have private partnerships that they could have come up with. And I'm saying KFC because, come on, that would have been their first thought. But for each area, it would be different. So instead of shut down everybody, why didn't say, okay, let's have a moving caravan of food. You go and you tell people house to house. You have your regiment. They have the cooks. Why they didn't do soup kitchens and set up in your impoverished areas and you let the regiment go out and give per households. You don't come out your house. You will come and drop it, you come and pick it up and you leave. I saw that happening some country where they would pass house to house and drop packages in a
Yes.
bag. They would keep the horn or whatever, and they would know, okay, now it's time to come outside, get the bag, go back inside. Why aren't we doing these simple things? You know you have people
Correct.
starving. I mean, yeah, and majority of these areas are PNM strongholds, eh? So you think they should know this.
Right.
But this is
They're doing
ways
that,
to
Lima, in
utilize
Guyana
their
right now.
people.
They're doing that in Guyana right now. Imagine the same Guyana that we laughed at and we thought we were
Yeah,
above. Guyana now has exactly what Lima has described. They're stating, don't come out of your house. We are passing around with food baskets to each and every house. This is not a
yeah,
political stunt. We are giving to every citizen that requires it. They said once you come by their house, they honk, you need it, you wave your hand. They don't want you to come out the house. They leave it at the gate, they go to the next house. But we know in Trinidad that would never occur from an objective standpoint. We know it would be who know who and who know who and so forth. How are we going? And again,
yeah,
it is, we're seeing it play out, and our government still, what did we say? Security contracts. That was our priority. Instead of
yeah.
saying, how do we get food to people that are starving? A dollar to people that don't have a dollar in their pocket right now.
Yeah, yeah. Simple things like your meat but this is what I have been saying from day one. Since January, you saw this wave of the virus taking over. So from January, you had a right to start putting things in place. Plan A, plan B, C, D, up to whatever, and you go up in intensity as needed. So you would know, have meetings with your supermarket association. So in those very small communities, you could have put out MOUs in terms of care packages. Because in these those areas, they will know all their people who catching the nene. And you put things
Exactly.
in place. You work with the council and you start doing these kind of things. So when we are at this critical stage now, they would have already known, okay,
Mhm.
Susie down the road have 10 children and she really don't have enough to get for everybody. So, okay, we will need to ensure she has stuff to survive. Because when that survival instinct kick in, it has no amount of looting to stop that, you know.
Yes.
Exactly. And this is why I
Very
was
true, Lemma.
asking the question. We withdrew 1.2 billion US from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, approximately 10 billion TT dollars. We are hearing about churches for $50 million.
Mm.
Um, no, sorry, cathedrals for
The
50 million for 10, no, hotels for
hotels.
$50 million, churches for $10 million, security contracts per month per firm $87,000 that thank God were able to cancel. But you're not really hearing how much money going to relief though. You're not really hearing a step by step breakdown of how many people that they plan to facilitate under these relief grants. And that mention that you made, Lima and Michelle, or wasn't Michelle, about the packages that they're driving around in Guyana and giving out. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. As everybody is home right now, that is a perfect time and a perfect opportunity to hit people and get them at the core of their need. The core of their need is
Mhm.
at the homes right now, on the household level right now, where people need the basic things such as food, etc. And I would use this opportunity now to say that the Progressive Empowerment Party, we have been hearing your calls. People have been reaching out to us for assistance, and there's a very fine line that we like to tread in terms of not making this political, but we can't turn a blind eye to the people in our communities within our very own pep family and membership that may need assistance. So I am spearheading and coordinating an internal relief program, and external as far as we can afford it, to assist those families who may need our help. We've managed to help a couple of people. Like I say, we don't have access to treasury money. We don't have an unlimited means of resources, but we are going to do our best to assist. And if you would like to assist with that relief, you don't have to have plenty money. I swear to God, if you give me $20, $40, I will go to the grocery and shop and at least buy a pack of flour for a family that may need it. please contact me. Find me on Facebook, Felicia Holder. My number is 7694590. I will coordinate with you to meet you to get the money to have it deposited. Even if you want to buy the groceries yourself but don't know who to give it to, I will assist with that. Myself and the team, Shari Wilson, etc. We want to be able to help, even if on a micro level, because we are very much aware that there are citizens in our country who need help, citizens who may not have access to help, citizens whose councillors and MPs have seemingly neglected them. And wherever we can step in and assist, we are very much willing and able to do so. Like I say, you can reach out to me, 7694590. I know Alberta and Michelle and Lima as well are very much interested and would want to be involved in this process. You as a private citizen, if you would like to be involved in this relief process as well, please contact me. I and together we will do our best to assist where we can.
Good. And once again, on that note, Felicia, I would call on all MPs and councillors, please, within your constituency, try and take care of your people. They need you more than ever right now. There are people who are hungry. Please render assistance to them before we reach an uncontrollable level. Give them the assistance that they need. They were the ones that elected you. Please do not break their trust.
Indeed. I do want to segue into a topic that I want to touch on before we go into the break. And that is the seemingly, well, not seemingly, because it's very obvious, silent opposition in the face of a lot of the issues that are taking place right now. I mentioned earlier that the Prime Minister said nothing on the doubles incident and did not do anything to pacify the racial tension that was rising in Trinidad and Tobago over the weekend and into today. But there's also the opposition leader who I have noticed is clearly very busy in her garden because several issues have flew over her head and she has not addressed them yet. I saw yesterday UNC taking credit for
Yes.
the cancellation of the security
saw that,
contract,
yes.
yet we heard absolutely nothing from them. Michelle, Lema, Stacey, do we still have an opposition in this country?
I don't know. I
We
can't
do.
see. I can't see them.
The Progressive Empowerment Party is the opposition right now, Felicia.
Agreed, agreed. But what the
Yeah.
opposition is doing, we know what the opposition is doing. They're letting the PNM basically drown themselves. And they're thinking that the country is automatically going to go to them in time of election. So they're just waiting for their opportunity to bleed the
Yeah.
treasury also. Let's be real. So she's just she knows the PNM is going to falter. So she's just watching from afar. And then last night had the utter audacity to take credit when they were nowhere in sight. The Progressive Empowerment was leading the conversation all day for the past 24 hours on that security contract. We were leading it, we were engaging people, and had the audacity to be on the news last night, basically taking credit when you have not uttered one sentence on that matter.
Yeah.
You have not come out and spoken for the people. You have on any matters. Let's be real. When last have we heard the opposition fight for the citizens and the wrongdoings of this country?
I don't know. I don't know. It's like they just realize, all right, you know what? We just there
Yeah.
because and the media just flocks to them to hear their opinion. Why they don't flock to the people who actually making the noise about it? The media bias is just ridiculous and it's getting old.
Yes.
But Michelle, you mentioned that they're just sitting in line and just waiting, and to me that is called politicking because somebody mentioned to me that the PEP is just our job is just to oppose everything, and that's the job of the opposition. I said no, that is what the opposition of this country, present and past, have taught you. That's not the rule of the opposition. The opposition's
Right.
rule in this country, despite the name, is not just to oppose everything they hear. The opposition's role is to act on behalf of and intervene on behalf of the people. And the issues, the two particular issues that just passed, and you heard silence, crickets from the UNC camp, one in particular being that security contract is see when I was waiting to hear the prime minister, the opposition leader come out and say something, and the only thing that I heard was another politicizing of the issue, talking about the same contract that Stuart Young was trying to use was a copy and paste of her contract back in 2014, and that I don't understand, because this is not about who spent more and who spent less. This is not about who got a better deal. It's not about who was able to negotiate the best. It's about the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And I don't know if it's because she
Correct.
has cocoa in the sun, because she hired the same companies. But you know what? That was what, 6 years ago? Maybe now is the
Right.
time to come back and say we didn't need it then, and we certainly don't need it now. And again, I keep saying that along this journey of this self isolation, this quarantine, this social distancing journey that Trinidad and Tobago has been on, that they have been the opposition and the government, the Prime Minister Keith Rowley, Stuart Young, Coleman Blue, they have all been presented with the opportunity or several opportunities to change the minds of the public. And at each junction, they have squander the opportunity and let it pass. And I think in this particular incident for Kamla Prasad Visasa and the UNC, for me, in this particular incident, I was expecting more from them as opposition leaders of the Trinidad and Tobago. I was expecting them to stand up and intervene on our behalf. Instead, and I have to again say kudos to you, Trinbagonians, kudos to us. Instead, what you had were people from the media, so Fazir Muhammad and even Akash Samaru, a man who I don't usually big up so much, but I have to give him his kudos. Instead you had them and people from the public acting on behalf of the opposition, and they were the ones who were actually instrumental. And of course, the Progressive Empowerment Party and Philip
Mhm.
Edward Alexander, we were the ones instrumental in actually speaking out on this issue. And anyway, I was going to make a comment about those who were trying to ride on our coattails and take credit for the issue. This is not about who raised it first and who did what and who's supposed to get the accolades for it. I think it's about us as citizens being able to unite against threats to our democracy, threats to our economic stability, which I view those security contracts as those were threats to our economic stability in a time where we already do not have much to operate on. So, opposition leader Kamla Prasad Visasa, please do your job and don't just leave it up to the citizens to do it and then swoop in and take the credit for the work.
Mhm.
Have a responsibility to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to protect our interests, and don't make it about politics. Make it about that. About you that money that was going to be spent on those security tracks was money and food off of the tables of citizens from communities where is not accessible. And that is, and I had to mention that today, where in light of everything that we're discussing and the fact that there seems to be radio silence from that side of the camp. Anything else from you ladies on that topic?
Felicia, I wanted to mention, you said something that is critical for the citizens to be aware of. You mentioned that the previous administration had engaged with a contract with the same set of security contracts. So hence the reason the opposition continues to be silent, because they themselves too are guilty of the same said corrupt behavior. Hence the reason they can't give feedback, because she said 6 years ago engaged in that same astronomical figure of paying out these security personnel. So hence the reason they continue on many subjects. We have been in meetings where we realize the same behavior occurred 6 years ago. The same overpayment of contractors, the same engagement of contractors, the same corrupt, unaccounted lack of transparency has again. So what is she going to say? Because she knows PNM is going to come right back at her and say what you, and they're going to say you just did this, you just did this a few years ago. So hence the reason we have the continued silence, and they are depending on the citizens to basically oppose the current administration to to assume that they will be in government next term.
But that's exactly what happened, though. You saw the back and forth, and I mean, you see the politics playing out in his address, not his address, sorry, in that press media briefing yesterday. You heard Stuart Young. He inserted, like the child that he is, he had to insert that this security contract was significantly less than what the opposition paid in 6 years ago. And I'm thinking, what was the point of saying that if not to politicize the issue and make it seem like we doing better than the UNC? Why is it everything that you have to talk about or do you have to compare to what happened 6 years ago? We're not concerned. I'm not saying we're not concerned about that, but if the issue
It's
is
not
not
relevant
politics,
right
why
now.
not deal exactly? Why not deal with the issue of right now? And then in their response, they had to come back and say, "Do you know that the same contract that they issuing now was the exact copy and paste of the one that we did 6 years ago?" And I'm thinking, you're not realizing that in your bacchanal and your back and forth and who say what and who do what and who spend what, that it is the citizens who are suffering. It is the
That's because
citizens.
of
While you
how
argue,
immature our politicians are, and it's like children play. At the end of the day, if you know UNC was wrong, go behind them, investigate, and prosecute. But don't come and be talking about oh, shit on TV and well, UNC do this, so we could do it too. No, that is not the point. You're there to solve a problem, put things in place so it cannot happen again, and that is what they're not doing. So all this nonsense where they keep saying, well, UNC used the same contractors and they did this, but it was for more money and they doing it for less. They still basically you're still doing the same foolishness they did. You're just stealing a little less. So this whole
Exactly.
game between who
Because
teeth less and who teeth more and
mhm,
all of that foolishness, they need to stop it. It's go investigate. If wrongdoing was done, prosecute. Let's get the ball rolling.
because the UNC
definitely.
and at each other's throats where the country needs them the most. And that's it. Both of them, that's all they could do, just be at each other's throats. Who did more, who did less, who thief the most? You all still thief. At the end of the day, now is not the time for that. Now is the time for us to stand with the citizens of this country and help them because they are the ones who gave you that power to be in office. So therefore, you need to serve the people.
Exactly.
Exactly. And I have to mention a little off point, but related to what we're talking about. I very rarely listen to the media briefings live because if you ask me, I honestly just cannot stand the sound of Stuart Young's voice. I hate to hear him enunciate and pontificate, and he literally grinds my nerves. I rather read the report later on in the evening, but yesterday for the first time because I was driving and I heard him live and I listened to this little comment that he had to slip in, which was that the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago think that they are safe enough and that they don't need an additional security contract. And I'm like, dude, are you really trying to manipulate the emotions of the citizens to get us now to say, Stuart Young, no, sorry, that's not what we meant. We really need the security patrols. I'm like, come on. You are a big growing minister. As much as you act like a you're a big growing government minister and you're really trying to use manipulation to get back at the people of Trinidad and Tobago. If there was one point in time that he demonstrated his insecurity and his immaturity, it was at that press conference briefing. And it reminded me why I do not want to listen live. I mean, apart from the sound of your voice, you're too immature to be in the position that you hold. National security, and you're throwing tantrums because the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago push back against themselves.
Yes, that's why he's got on like a spoiled brat who I want to be daddy's favorite. I want to be. And it's like, come on, man, get it together. Jeez. That's why I had put the post where I said Trinidad and Tobago slapped his ego for six yesterday.
Yes.
Get the Coast Guard diesel so they could patrol so the drugs and the guns don't come in so we don't have to TTPS don't have to worry about extra stuff coming in. They could focus on what is already on the ground. That is his job. You want to focus on everybody else. It's like the neighborhood macro. You want to macro everything else, but do what you're supposed to do.
Guys, we're going to take a quick break at this point. It's 9 a.m. and I'm seeing a question from Gigi's De Silverland G. Giselle De Silverland DG. I always wonder how to pronounce it. She asked if Lil can respond to questions and comments on this thread. Yes, I have the live stream open on my phone, so feel free to ask your questions. We will open the phone lines when we come back from this very quick break. To ask the main question, do you agree with the cancellation of the security patrol, the private security patrol contracts? I asked the question yesterday, but unfortunately, the question yesterday was, do you agree with the contract? Today's question after the contract was cancelled is going to be, do you agree with it being cancelled? So when we come back, we are going to continue the discussion. We have other things to talk about on this COVID-19 issue, as well as the government's response to it. You can ask your questions on the thread as well. I will do my best to relate it to the panel in front of me and answer your questions. But we will be back after this very, very quick break.
Antel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber, and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Antel also installs and maintains video security systems including cameras, alarms, and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Antel 674-1406 or 783-9250.
Public health in Trinidad and Tobago is a catastrophe. It is a fiasco. It is the 6th and 7th circles of hell. Some people say public health in Trinidad is sickening. The Prime Minister agrees. Judging by his latest decision 4.5 years later, as Prime Minister, the man who spent upwards of $25 billion on public health in this country has chosen once again to seek his own health care in other jurisdictions. Public health in Trinidad and Tobago has never worked to the benefit of the public under no government at no time. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, are spending money we do not have, building hospitals we do not need, in a public health system that does not work. The Progressive Empowerment Party suggests that in place of the fiasco that exists as our public health system, that we replace it all with 41 public health centers, one for each constituency, operated 24/7, managed by nurse practitioners with on-call doctors capable of treating dental, optical, and medical emergencies, to function as 41 emergency rooms in this country, equipped even for minor stabilization surgeries, and with dedicated ambulance service. This would function far better than the chaos of the centralized public health system that does not work. How it should work, how it works in foreign jurisdictions. A call to a call center should be answered by a trained operator who knows how to ask proper questions so as to guide paramedics listening in on the line as to what your condition might be, so that they can prepare to treat with you when they arrive. The call to that call center that identifies your location plugs in GPS coordinates that guides the ambulance directly to you, so they don't have to call asking for further directions, looking for landmarks. A call to a call center that guides the ambulance to your house in under 10 minutes. The magic time that science suggests required to save patients in emergencies such as heart attack, stroke, and other massive failure. The paramedic operated ambulance is stocked and equipped with everything to treat with just about every emergency. But in specialized cases, there are special kits that they could add in quick time. And that is why the questions that a trained operator asking would advise them and guide them so that when they come to you, your treatment begins during transportation. The paramedics then take full responsibility for you and initiate conversation with the closest emergency room where they're taking you. The doctor on call or the person in charge would then exchange information with the paramedics so as to further guide the treatment that is being done while you're being transported to the emergency room, and the emergency room would be preparing to receive you. Arriving at the hospital, the paramedics are greeted by the emergency room team who takes full control of you, guides you into the treatment room, puts you onto a bed, releases the stretcher, and releases the paramedics and the ambulance. In a first world country, at that point, the emergency room staff are responsible for you, and they treat and discharge you, or they treat and admit you to hospital for further treatment. If at any point along the way the worst should occur and you expire, there are morbidity and mortality conferences that you can request beyond an autopsy if suspicion exists that someone along the way was remiss in their responsibility or negligent. And everyone in that chain, from the operator at the call center to the ambulance driver, the paramedic, the emergency room team, and any doctors and nurses treating with you after, are aware that there are serious consequences for malpractice, including charges of depraved indifference to human life. This is the level of public health we are entitled to in this country. We spend $5 billion a year for our public health and get this fiasco in exchange. Isn't it time we did better? The Progressive Empowerment Party says so, and says that there are people in the world that we could hire and empower and employ to provide proper, adequate, professional, first world public health in Trinidad and Tobago, as described before. We can have a better country. We can have proper health care. It's a matter of voting. It's a matter of choice. What we do next is important. I am Philip Edward Alexander, and this has been a little more than 3 minutes to a better Trinidad and Tobago.
And we are back, and that's promise. Our lines between now and 10 a.m. to allow you to talk your talk. Normally it's a half an hour segment. Because we missed it yesterday, we are allowing nearly an entire hour for you to send in or call in with your questions and comments on the live as well, which I have open. You can ask your questions on anything we would have discussed today or anything else that you would like us to address as a panel. We have been talking this morning about the government's response to COVID-19. We spoke about the security contract that was cancelled yesterday amidst a lot of public outcry against what we see as an unnecessary spend in a time of austerity measures, in a time where many people cannot even access the salary relief grants. I was just during the break on TV6 on the Trinidad Express page that salary relief grants are expected to be dispersed today. Michelle, still have just about 4,000 people who would apply for it. And I'm not sure what you think about that number, but in my opinion, it seems to be very low. And in the comments, you're seeing the minister is acknowledging that many people are having difficulty filling out the relief grants. Do you think that 4,000 is a low number in comparison to what we know about the Trinidad and Tobago?
Okay, the article, correct me if I'm wrong, but the article that you're referring to is the disbursement through the Social Services Department, right? Ministry of Social Development, correct? That it does not
Yes.
include, that does not. So those disbursements are only for those citizens that do not have the NIB correlation. They don't work for companies. They are self-employed. That is only referring to them. Majority of citizens that have been impacted and their jobs have been laid out have to go through NIB. So that 4,000 that you're referring to is a handful of people that are self-employed. They're not contributing to the NIB system. So hence the reason they directed them in that direction. So that is only capturing, like you said, a minimal amount of people.
Indeed. And
You're
Lima,
also
you did a
finding
post on
issues
NIB
where,
yesterday.
yeah, yeah, you're seeing a lot of issues popping up where companies have employees and they're not paying NIS for these employees.
Right,
So when people go to the
right.
NIB now, they're saying, well, we don't have contributions to you. They should have set up a hotline number and these kind of things for people to address these issues, because now that you find out your company not paying NIS for what you're supposed to do.
Right. That disbursement is for like the roadside vendors, the people that are, minimally
Mm-hmm.
employed, they're self-employed, they don't have that. So that's not capturing the amount of people that need these funds. If you're going
Yeah.
to NIB, again, you're looking at 2 to 3 weeks probably disbursement. I saw a few comments yesterday that
Mm-hmm.
should be, concerning, where a lot of people are so turned off that they said, forget it. I'm not going to even go through this.
One of the issues that there is that people are having difficulty with saying to their employer or the employer that would have laid them off or made them redundant to get them to actually validate the form and validate the fact that they are unemployed. And in such a case, they are saying try to get recommendations from two people. And why is this so cumbersome? Why is this so cumbersome? Why is this so cumbersome? Shouldn't we understand? We knew going into this that money was going to be an issue. Come on, people are no longer working. Are you telling me that we do not have anywhere in this country through NIB, through the Ministry of Labor, we do not have a database of how many people that are employed and unemployed in this country? Are you telling me that knowing this information, we can't formulate a plan to what was it? Um, it was Philip who said, and I agree with this wholeheartedly. Why not make a deposit, a salary deposit to everybody's bank account? Republic Bank, that was the company that he pointed out.
Yes.
Republic Bank, when they let their employees know that during this COVID-19 stay-home period, every single one of their employees, and Republic Bank employs, after the government, I believe the most amount of people in this
Mhm.
country, they
Yeah, they have the
each
most
each
answers.
got an additional $1,000 in bank accounts to deal with this crisis, to give them some level of comfort and relief in a period that we know is going to be difficult. So how hard is it?
Yeah.
How hard was it for us to do that as the government of Trinidad and Tobago? Are we letting private institutions show us up and do better than us? We are the freaking government. You all are the freaking government of this country. How is operating so difficult?
But I did a post the other day that said TNM's legacy of failed systems and illiteracy programs coming back to haunt them, because you're still finding a lot of people who don't have basic things like on a bank account. A lot of your pensioners do not have bank accounts. So if you were to send money for them, how are you going to do it? You would have to
We
go
had
send
an
it to the bank.
entire
It would have to come with a name,
demonetization.
ID card list, and all of that.
But
So
Lima,
it's
we had
still
an entire
really good.
demonetization we had an entire demonetization exercise back in December where citizens who did not even have bank accounts, those who had to save money under their mattresses, were forced to create bank accounts. Are you still telling me that at this point there's still no way to give them access to their money? And even if they don't have bank accounts, don't we have those VTM cards, those ATM cards that we could
Yes.
have loaded with money on? When I used to work in the last company that I used to
Yeah, but
work
they're
at,
not.
this was 5 and 6 and 7 years ago. As gifts for Christmas, we used to get the VTM credit cards that we could go and insert into any machine at Scotiabank, or Republic Bank, or
Right, but
RBC,
then
and
you
access
will see people
money.
with 2 and 3 cards because my counselor gave me and I a friend at this one and I a friend at that one. So you still wouldn't have accountability with it. And then you will see the people who really need it wouldn't get it.
But the people should not have to suffer because of the government's failure to be able to govern and manage a simple process as delivering relief to people. And as you just said, that lemma about accountability, in a crisis, as much as it's an opportunity to reveal the best of ourselves and come together and stand together, it's also when you see the
Yes.
worst of the worst come out. I will never forget the Greenville incident when $100 million in relief was distributed, and the process was corrupted. You had people
Yep.
who were not even living in Greenville getting money, and it sucks because there are still people from Greenville who did not get money,
Yeah.
and
There's
that
still have
has
people
nothing
waiting
to do with.
to
Yes,
relief fund.
It has everything to do with
yeah.
the government's failure and inability to manage the process.
Mhm. It also shows you
In
the
fact, they are
incompetence
not
of our
even
social development minister and that whole ministry. The breakdown is there. They need to fix it from
exactly.
there. Once they fix social
It shows
development, they fix
you.
everything else. Camille
It
not doing
shows
her
you how
job.
it shows you how incompetent our government is. It clearly shows, because if we cannot handle this situation now when we could have been preparing for this since in January, it shows you that they have no sense of direction, no lack of knowledge, nothing like that. They're just a bunch of headless chickens, just making fly by night decisions and making announcements every day, and nothing is being done that benefits the citizens of the country. By their deep pocket financiers benefiting, not the
Let's take
citizens.
it past January, ladies. Let's just say, what is our overall pandemic policy in this country? Do we even have
Yeah.
one? Because I saw a speech yesterday in 2005 where President Bush at that time was talking about the potentials of pandemics and downfalls that may occur in the society. So it goes to show it. Let's take it past January. Did we even have a pandemic policy?
Yeah.
Are we? Do we continue to govern both past and present by fly by night? Everybody is praising this government, and we mentioned it, and I continue to mention it, that we are praising their government for their response when the entire world has the same response. They're basically going and looking at another world's response and coming back and saying the same thing. So no, this is
Yes,
what they
yeah.
should be doing. This is nothing of the norm, and that's what citizens need to. But again, ask the question, did we even have a pandemic policy? Because clearly it shows we did not have anything to deal with any type of emergency that may have happened to this country. And Lima mentioned it several times. Where is the OD, the emergency disaster
Yeah.
organization? Oh, where is that? Where has that been? I think you mentioned that from last week before. Where is that
Yeah.
organization? They are the ones that should be out on the streets logistically, and reaching out to the people. If you don't want to give it to the local, that is what that agency is for. But again, as Pep indicates, we have these useless agencies that serve no purpose but collecting salaries and costing
Mhm.
the government tons of millions of dollars.
But not only that, what this government shows is that they are very good at reaction, not
Right.
proactivity. And that is what we needed most, proactivity. As I told somebody earlier, I say it's like you're in a stadium and you're seeing the wave coming. So it's either you want to be part of the wave or you don't. And we saw it coming
Mhm.
and we waited until it was at our door then to, oh my God, we now have COVID. We need to let's do something. Let's do something. But it also shows you how we need to repurpose our regiments. If we don't really have a war to fight, so why don't we repurpose it as like the National Guard? Any emergency kicks in, they automatically respond regardless of what it is.
Right.
Why not?
Correct.
I'm, I'm reading a question from Minolf on the live. Felicia, please tell me, is the money for every single citizen from 0 to 100 years of age, or is it for families, etc.? Minolf, these are the relief grants that we know of. If you are a self-employed or made redundant or unemployed person, you can apply for a grant of relief that will get you up to 1500 TT dollars per month. You can use the calculator and convert it to German if you can, because I know you're in Germany, so you're thinking German dollars. So that's
What
1500
are the
TT
euros?
dollars per per redundant or per employee who would have been fired or lost their job or is unable to make money during COVID-19. It's $510 per family, 510 TT dollars per family for um, food relief, as in that's how much you can get in groceries. And then I believe it's $2,500, or you can get up to $2,500 for renters
Rent
relief. If
cover.
you're renting and
Yes.
you need to pay rent, you can be covered up to $2,500. These are all up to 3 months. And if you're already registered with if you're already registered to have a food card, you cannot get an additional one. So you have to use the food cards that you have. No, it's not for everybody in your
No.
household. It's just for the entire household. $510. I went and I made groceries for, I mentioned earlier that we are trying to low key assist people who do need help. And I remember going to the grocery hoping to stay within a budget of $300. And after just getting the basic necessities, the bill was close to $500. I only had $300 to shop, so I had to put the rest to myself. But this is what we're facing. This is what we're facing. And especially with the people who and the businesses who are hell bent on exploiting this situation and taking advantage by raising their prices. That is also what the people have to face. So for $510, you are getting the basic of the basic, the bare minimum.
And with this pandemic situation, all our government arms are supposed to be taking notes and putting information together for a database so they would know, right, you have a certain percentage of people renting. Let's see how many are families. So when the next HDC housing lottery is coming out or whatever thing, they could pull these people so you could assist in terms of that because paying a rent is already a drain on a family. Because you still have to buy food, if you have a car, you have bills to pay, etc. Children going to school. So things like that is what they're supposed to start looking at now. You're looking at your most vulnerable, so you will know how to improve systems. So in the event something like this happens again, you wouldn't be in the same position. Because as it is right now, if we were to get up something next year, we will be in the same position because nothing is changing. We are reacting. They're not changing systems to show, right, this is how it is. Let's fix that so it wouldn't happen like that again.
It's extremely
Exactly.
important that we understand it's not for every citizen. The US and Canada has disclosed their compensation for every citizen. Ours is, if you look at the verbiage, it is only for those impacted with employment by COVID 19. It doesn't say unemployed. Notice the verbiage. It does not say,
Yeah.
because I had someone call me and ask me to, explain. I said, no, you've been unemployed. You don't fall into that category. It says specifically those impacted by COVID 19. So
Yeah.
again, you're reaching out to a very minimal percentage of the of the citizens. Every citizen, regardless of stature or class or anything, every citizen has been impacted by this. We know this. Even if you have
Yeah.
a business and you are self-sufficient, you still have been impacted. I do consulting. I've been impacted, but am I unemployed? No, I'm not. But my revenue has gone down. My income has gone down considerably in the past few weeks. I had to cancel because of the quarantine, but I'm not unemployed. I don't qualify. So we need to understand it's not for every citizen, and that's where a lot of citizens are getting confused and will be rejected by those applications.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I see there are now many forms available. And I have to say, thank God for these shows that we have by the PP and the Plain Talk show and this Pep Talks in the Morning show, because we clearly seem to be setting the policy decisions for the government. And if it's one thing I will have to thank you for, is finally listening. And you know what? If we can informally or unofficially guide your decisions, I would keep doing the show every single morning. But thank God for the pushback that they have gotten. I see they're now making the forms available in the police stations. So, I mean, again, still though, I was about to commend them for extending it and making it available in the police stations, but still, it still circles back to the point of what, like what you were just saying, Michelle, whether you're unemployed now or just temporarily employed, temporary unemployed, everybody is being impacted. It should not be that you
Correct.
have to go and fill out a form and go and travel to a police station. Yesterday, I actually went to a police station. I had some other business to conduct, and I wasn't aware what was happening at the time, but then when I read the article, it's only then I realized that what they were doing was filling out that relief form. And I saw this family, an entire family. I mean, from the looks of it, they're clearly going through a hard time. Sitting down 2 feet, about 2 meters away from the police officer, there's a caution tape between them and the officer telling them where they can't go further to fill out a form to say I need $510 for food. Really? It probably
Yeah.
cost them more, about half of that just to travel and come out of their homes. Really? I mean, that's a hyperbole there. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but let's be real. Why, if we know everybody is really going to be impacted by this, why is it so hard? Why are we making it so hard for people to 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 just access the basic necessities? And I
Exactly.
remember somebody pointed out an incident to me. They went to the grocery shop one time, and there's this woman looking Gucci bag and high heels and Michael Kors watch, and she's just looking typical rich woman. And she's there in the line, and her trolley is full. And then when she reaches the front of the line, she pulls out about two or three food cards to swipe and pay for her groceries. And that pointed out to the fact that we have that process is so corrupted, and it's so corrupted to the point that you have rich people who can't afford to pay for these things benefiting, whereas the poor people, those who cannot afford, are the ones who are suffering. And there's nobody to blame but those in charge and responsible, to blame for literally taking food out of the mouths of citizens who actually need it, other than those who are responsible for
You see
managing
that
and guiding
across
the
the
process.
board in every because you see that with HGC houses. HGC is supposed to be for people who cannot
Yes.
afford to go to TMF or whatever, and you see people with BMW and Range Rover pack up in HGC. Or those people weren't supposed to get, they were supposed to be rejected. You could go and take a loan, and if you could have buy a Range Rover, you could damn well get your own house through the bank, CTMF, mortgage company, whatever. So again,
My
that is exactly what they do. They don't care. It's like whatever. They're
Our
people. They know
system,
somebody.
our system is so backdated, database supposedly have the database. Make the funds available through the citizens assistance, and as you go along, so back data of people traveling when you were told to stay home and you have to travel or drive, and you have to go and do the normal running around of getting these signatures on these forms and stuff. Why would you want
Yeah.
to put the citizens through all that? Just make the funds available to their account.
But the thing is, the Minister of Health was complaining about that. He said Monday, no traffic. Tuesday, no cars on the road. Wednesday, one set of cars. Duh! You had to have people to go and get a physical form to carry it here to sign, to get it stamped, to go to get, I don't know, must see character certificate, all kind of stupidness you need for the thing. You don't expect people to be on the road? Is why?
Correct.
Is he
Correct.
missing something?
I'm reading another comment from Minolf here. When you say that, and this is in relation to the process and the administrative process of accessing these grants, when you say that, I'm 100% sure that the complete administrative procedure costs more than the actual relief for the people. And thinking about it, it probably costs more to print those forms with that ink and distribute it to the police stations and to the MP's office than it is to actually than the actual relief that the people are going to get. And this everything is so bureaucratic in Trinidad. It just feels like it's so cumbersome. And for the people who apply for the grant, the rest who did not apply, I'm almost sure that apart from it being so hard to access, I would be turned off too. It's like all of this for $510, boy.
Yeah.
All of this for $1,500, boy. Really? And for those who might be like, at least you're getting something. You know what? That's true. At least you're getting something. But for God's sake, if you're giving something, make it easy for the people now, please. Please.
Yeah.
Please make
You
it
could
easy for the
all that running up
people.
and down and you could get COVID. So the $5
All right, we getting a
wouldn't do
call.
anything.
We getting a call. Hold on. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Pep Talks in the Morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning to the panel there. I want to find out,
Good morning.
they're giving this grant for all the people and them. What about the farm workers? What about the farm workers who cannot? They must get any technology. That's all I want to say.
Repeat your question. Sorry, what about the farm workers?
How about the farm workers to go to Canada and work and they cannot go to Canada at this time? Are they getting anything from the government? The answer, I don't know. The both country lockdown and no farm workers can get anything. That's what I want to find out, sir.
Thank you. I still didn't hear what he said exactly. What about the what? The farm workers?
Farm workers, like
Farm
those
workers,
people
yes.
who go to pick apples and stuff. Those people you're talking about?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Right, they wouldn't
That
be able to leave the country to go foreign
Right.
countries
Correct.
to farm.
What company
or-
do they have? I have not heard of any company based on that aspect as have any of all hearers, yeah?
No, but he also brought up a good point too, though. What about our local farmers who can't go out and do stuff to sell?
They would have
And
to
that's
go
it.
through
It's
social
every
development. I
citizen.
heard someone refer to that. Social development would be for the farmers that are directly impacted because of the COVID-19. Again, because not through NIB. But he also referred to flying out. I would think that would qualify because basically the country has been closed down. Your income
Yeah.
has been impacted. So you would think logically. But again, with our government, you can never tell because he's employed foreign. He's not employed locally. And there might be some clause or provision that restricts
Yeah.
that. So, I mean, to the caller, I would apply and to get a further explanation because that is a unique circumstance.
Yeah.
I listened to Stuart Young say yesterday, one of the questions from the media briefing asked about people who would have been stuck abroad, particularly in the United States of America, because the borders are closed. And the question asked, what relief are they being given, particularly where they would have purchased tickets and now their date has passed and they're forced to stay on longer than they have to, and their money is running out. Food for them, is a concern because they're in a country that is not their home country. They don't have the opportunity to fly back home because we have closed the borders. And the question asks, what relief is being offered to them? And I didn't the security minister say that, the situation is a global one. He addressed the concern of reopening the borders and the fact that he cannot reopen the borders for people to fly in and out. But he completely ignored and did not deal properly, in my opinion, with the issue of people who are deaf, who are obviously residing abroad, who would have issues with surviving in a period like this, in a period where it's not like you could just pick up and go out. You are under quarantine, you have no money because your stay is much longer than you anticipated. And now you're in a situation where you need help. And he said, we have embassies for that. I will never forget which country was this. Canada allotted, I believe, close to $300 million to assist in repatriation, in terms of bringing people home and in terms of assisting people who are come back home and trapped in other countries with simply surviving, and they are funneling it to their embassies, etc. And I'm thinking, how can our Minister of National Security totally abdicate his responsibility, security of your people? It doesn't just deal with the security of the people within your boundary and within your borders. It deals with the security and the it's security of the people outside of your borders as well. And the fact that we have completely forgotten about and sidelined people who are
Abandoned is the word
outside.
you're looking for.
Thank you. We have abandoned them, Limo, and we have literally left fend on their own. I'll never forget when, in the height of the pandemic in Wuhan, China, we had over 120 nationals there. And they were saying that there was no communication here, and the same response that he gave now, he gave then, go and check with your local embassy. And I'm thinking, how? How, as the Minister of National Security, is it so easy to abandon and abdicate your responsibility to the national and Tobago, be they residing here within our borders or be they on the outside?
Another issue is the Prime Minister justified Stuart Young's bullshit when he said his daughter is abroad. But what he fails to say is his daughter will be treated as daughter of a Prime Minister of a foreign country if anything were to happen to her. So she would have gotten some sort of diplomatic assistance on the cases. What they also forget was our borders are closed but can be reopened when the Vice President of a foreign country wants some backdoor deal with us.
Right.
That is what
Well,
they should have asked.
did you guys see yesterday, it was on the news, the vice president of Venezuela has indicated those 40 plus citizens that are staying in the resort, that the resort is closing down within the next few days. And they literally have nowhere to go. They will be on the streets of Venezuela. And she was pleading with the minister, directly to the Minister of National Security, to help the citizens stranded, because I think it's today or tomorrow, the resort in which they are staying is officially going to be closed and they are going to be kicked out. So you have citizens on the
So when the
streets.
Vice President was coming, why she didn't bring them on time?
I thought the same thing, Lima. And I heard she came in 2 planes, huh? 2 planes. So she could have easily fit the 40 something of them, or how many of them. It's less than, she could have fit that. But now yesterday she was on a major TV station pleading with Stuart Young to get these citizens home, because they are indicating they have absolutely no money on them. Their money has run out.
Yeah.
Who was pleading with Stuart Young? Who was it? Sorry?
The vice president of Venezuela that visited last week.
Hold on. So last week, when she came on her planes and forgot them, this week she's concerned about them? That's
correct. Yep. there was a live call pleading, begging him to do something. And why wasn't that discussed? That should have been, if that so-called meeting, why wasn't that highlighted during that meeting? An arrangement. So
Wasn't
again, it
that
shows
meeting? Was not that, Michelle, come on, wasn't that meeting to discuss COVID-19? Should that not have been raised then?
we
That
think
was not
so,
the meeting to
Felicia.
Apparently,
discuss
they forgot.
COVID-19.
No, I think they forgot that particular important topic there. They discussed
And
anything else but that, the
and
You could
important
have
also,
situation.
discussed COVID over phone, teleconferencing, WhatsApp, video, all of
well,
those things. He
Correct.
physically
so
came there and wasn't to discuss nothing.
that was my next comment. She did a live conference pleading with him to see about the citizens that are trapped there. Why she didn't do a live conference a week and a half ago?
Precisely.
Right, she did a telephone interview. It appeared live. It was on last night's news, so it appeared live or was recorded or by any. But she definitely contacted the same way they could have spoke about COVID-19. But again, as we know, that meeting was not about COVID-19 because these stranded citizens would have been a primary subject to discuss because now
First
they're stranded
priority.
and
Correct.
right, and the resort is closing down. I mean, we need to understand the magnitude of that. They are literally going to be on the streets, and she indicated that last night. They will be on the streets in Margarita, and can't speak English. She also indicated that. I mean, can't speak Spanish, and indicated that.
So these
My
citizens, our citizens, are stranded there with no food, no money, no nothing, and our government just there, just coming every day on television and just speaking and making no sense of nothing.
Right.
Germany, the German government repatriated 150,000 citizens in the COVID-19. 150,000 citizens. That means they spent money to bring them back home with the understanding that this pandemic was going to get worse, borders were going to close. I remember discussing with my friend what now feels like decades ago, but which was only less than 2 weeks ago, her brother, who was going to school, both her and her brother are based in the United States. And she's in a completely different state from him. She's in Washington and he was in New York. And he had to fly down to New York from his school in higher upstate, and he flew down to New York. Then he heard the bill closed, and he had to obviously to fly home to be with his family. And I mean, this was a cost and expense that had to be borne by her family, because there was no provision, no offer, no help being offered to bring him and other citizens who may have been trapped, who may have wanted to come back home. Minor is saying that they sent planes to New Zealand, to Argentina, to Australia. We have a national airline, Caribbean Airlines. We could not have used those airlines to provide cheap transportation paid by and fronted by the government to bring our people home. We're in the middle of a pandemic, middle of a crisis where social distancing is already making things so hard in terms of family life, in terms of relationships. Many people are suffering right now as we speak from mental health illness and this
Correct.
virus. The fact that we are in isolation is making things worse. We should be studying about all of this. I mean, apart from the monetary aspect of this, people, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, people need to feel loved and wanted and hugged and touched, and it's a period where all of that is so difficult. These are things that we have to think about. A progressive country with thinking about reuniting families. We obviously not thinking about that, and even if we were about it, we have run this country down to the ground to a state where we cannot afford to repatriate our citizens of the country.
Right.
No. We can do that. It's just it's not important for them to do it. We could find 87,000 per patrol per for security firms. We could find that money, but for our citizens we can't. So we have to say it correctly. They will find the money for certain people. They will find it for stuff. Another thing that I noticed, there was a cruise liner that had COVID positive victims, and they were British citizens, and no country was allowing them to dock. The UK initiated some sort of contact with Cuba and asked them, and Cuba allowed them to dock, got all the citizens on a plane to the UK. So why the hell we couldn't go for our citizens in Barbados and Margarita? Everybody else could
Right.
pick their citizens' interest. We can't? Please. If it was one of them daughter in some backward country suffering,
Yes.
they would see how fast they will find plane and helicopter and everything to make it worth to go for them.
Exactly.
A one-way ticket from New York right now is less than 200 US. I checked it all because I'm checking and tracking airline prices as the pandemic unfolds and, just seeing what travel is like. A one-way ticket is about under 200 US dollars. We could have, for that 87,000 times 4 contract, brought home hundreds of our citizens.
Yes.
And that's
Yep.
small money. We're talking for the 50 million on hotels in Tobago that we are allocating. We could have brought back thousands of our citizens. We are just hearing from the
Their
ones who
priorities,
actually take into social media.
mhm,
What of
their
those who
priorities are
aren't?
totally mixed up.
Yes.
They are not thinking on behalf of the citizens. They are not. They are thinking for themselves and how they can make money or pocket money from the treasury. They are not thinking on behalf of the citizens right now, and they need to stop it. They need to.
We need to, and just we have just over 10 minutes left of the program. The lines are still open. Sorry if you would like to call in and vent your piece. The main topic this morning was the cancellation of the security contract. If you would like to call in and talk about that or anything else, we had a caller earlier who called and asked about farmers and what's being done in terms of them traveling, etc. The lines are open for you to call in and talk your talk with us. There was also an issue that I wanted to touch on. Going to segue from we are currently discussing, and I had it earmarked since Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and never got to bring it up into the discussion, but I want to bring it up now. I think almost every single citizen would have received one or two text messages from the Ministry of Health advising us how to deal with this pandemic. And one of the recommendations is that you wash your hands with soap and water. And I would like to point out to the Ministry of Health, our Minister of Health, Mr. Terence Dialse, we need the water to wash our hands. And right now, there are a lot of communities that are suffering from lack of water. Mine was one on Monday and Tuesday. We had no water, literally filling buckets by the drip to simply wash your hands and take a bath. And I mean, come on, come on,
Right.
come
But
on.
again, it shows, Felicia, everything is interrelated, as we always say in the Progressive Empowerment Party. Everything is interrelated. So the dysfunctionality continues. The dysfunctionality of every operation, every company in Trinidad, it does not operate. It does not operate properly. So hence the reason these domino effects. Nobody thought that half the citizens of this country do not get water on a regular basis. Nobody thought of that. But yet you're telling us wash our hands.
Also, now would
Exactly.
be a good time for them to go around to communities that, because everybody's home, so you will see all what needs to be done fixed to fix the problems.
Right.
Ever right now is where we need water. And I have to say good morning to our two video bombers, Lima's two daughters who just made an appearance. Good morning, girls. Thank you for coming and join mommy as a co-host this morning. um, oh, yeah, morning, morning, babies. We need more than ever right now we need water more than ever. I personally, with this heat and with the COVID-19, I am taking up to 5, 6 baths a day. And I mean, if you just go out to the grocery, when you come back, you have to do laundry and put the clothes that you wear to wash. If you used to wear jeans 2 and 3 times a week, you wear it once. So the volume that to use at this time going to be remarkably greater than before COVID-19. So now, even more now, it is a terrible time to be denying citizens, and I have to say denying citizens of a basic necessity as water. We no longer have restaurants because our prime minister in a tantrum shut down everything in his inability to manage the situation for both and small businesses equitably. So now people have to cook at home. How are you cooking with the
Right.
Hmm.
unless we're eating
And then we
tuna
will
off the
expect the common
pandemic?
people to say how the reservoir is low.
Sorry, I'm just reading comments on the live here. It happened back in 1990. The Trinidad embassy closed the door to Trinidad national. Listen, our foreign policy seems to be no policy at all. We have ambassadors and high commissioners based every freaking in this globe who travel on the taxpayers' dime. I heard zero, nothing from them during this COVID-19 crisis. I heard not one of them make a plea on behalf of the citizens trapped in Margarita and Suriname, etc. You heard nothing. After this crisis, I hope these people know that we watching at their jobs. Are we looking to see why are we paying their taxi status and house and housing and allowance and all this nonsense when in the middle of a crisis where we needed it the most, you were radio silence?
Agreed
Yeah.
100%. And I believe we have highlighted that several times at the Progressive Empowerment Party that we need to really review our international relations and what is the purpose of these
Yeah.
diplomats. Is it just to receive the
Yes.
benefits and the perks? Because, you have made a statement,
First
not one of
and
them made a statement and we know a Trinidad, the saying is, any part of the world you will meet a Trini. So we know there were
yeah.
Trinidadians based all over the world. I have traveled extensively. I mean, I remember going to Finland and seeing a Trini there, and I was, what are you doing here? So not one diplomat made a statement. Not one diplomat spoke for the citizens abroad. So I agree with
But
Felicia.
the
We
Ministry
do need
of
to
Foreign Affairs
exactly.
should have put up a list of all of our ambassadors and diplomats, whatever, with contact information. So they would have been able to respond to foreign affairs and say, listen, we have 10 citizens here, there, and everywhere, and these are the issues they have. In. What should I advise them on? Blah, blah, blah. You're not seeing
Yes.
that. And that
They
is
could have
proactive
set
thinking
up
again.
Right, they could have set up a temporary hotline as well too, so people could have called in. Okay, I'm in this country here. What so and so is the case. We need to come home. So you all will have an account now. How many TNT nationals are out there and where
Yeah.
they are and all those things like that, and you would be able to move and function properly.
Yeah. And then too, according to the country, some of them were in it would be better they stay there. So you basically give them stuff to survive longer over there. I mean, if you're in a country where it has civil war and all kind of thing, yeah, bring you home, or at least to the closest city where you would be safe. But the no communication with your own country is scary.
But you mentioned something, Lima, that's really critical. Where has the Ministry of Foreign Affairs been? I mean, have we heard any statement from that ministry in this entire pandemic issue? We have not. And there was a lot
No,
of
we
foreign, I
have
mean,
not.
even the
Yeah.
national security, we didn't hear one word or statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Again, which shows, is that ministry useless? What is the purpose of that ministry? Because that should have been extreme, especially at the beginning when logistics of international logistics were critical and getting everybody back. That is where you would have turned to. You it would have turned to that ministry coordinating along with national security. So that's a real good observation. Not one statement has been made from that ministry.
I'm
Since the
reading a
beginning of
question from
January, he
Hayden
was supposed to
Phillips.
make a statement about that.
Reading a question from Hayden Phillips on the live. Good morning. My question is, after they cancel those contracts, I'm assuming he means the security contracts, do we have to pay them? In most contracts, there's a clause that says even if you cancel the contract, you still have to pay. We discussed this a little bit earlier in the program. Stuart Young said that no, we do not have to pay anything. We can only go by his word. I don't even know if a formal contract was signed. I know that they use similar terms of reference with similar terms to the terms of reference used formally by the People's Partnership Government back in 2014. I could only go by what we are told at this point until we hear otherwise. And
Mhm.
if we do hear, however, that we have to pay any money for this, I do expect the citizens to stand up against that the same way we stood up against that the contract being issued in the first place. Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
most definitely. Ladies, before I forget this, this was the best pep talk I have ever followed so far. Big congratulations to the quarter. That's from Minov. Minov, thank you very much. I think a panel of ladies would always be excellent to watch. So, Michelle, Lema, Alberta, thank you much for joining me. And we have under 4 minutes, so I'll give you
You're
each
welcome.
give wrap on today's program. This is your opportunity to talk to the public before we sign out for the day. Michelle, you go first.
I think, I hope that citizens have realized the power that we have as citizens of this country. And I believe yesterday was just a significant victory of where we should be going in the direction of governance that is required and that we are, deserve as citizens of this country. So citizens that are watching, citizens that will watch the program, please engage in active question the decisions of the government and start to be more proactive in the governance that you deserve. We at the Progressive Empowerment Party, again, our objective is to educate, inform, and empower you as citizens, empower ourselves, and keep knowledgeable. Take this time at home to read on the global events that are so much impacting our governance and our citizens in this country. Everyone stay safe and stay healthy.
On that note, TNT, keep safe. Be safe. Take care. Don't forget, we have
Thank
the
you,
power to
Alberta.
make the right decision. Yeah.
Thank you, Alberta. Any closing comments from you, Lama?
I just want to remind citizens that the needs of the many outweigh the wants of the few. We have to remain together as one people and stand up for all of our citizens and not just some. And do not let our politicians continuously divide us along the race lines, please.
Thank you, Lima. And Lima, Stacy, and Michelle, thank you very much for joining the panel this morning. I think it was really one of the best shows that we have
You're
had. We
welcome.
dealt with a lot of issues today regarding the government's dealing of the COVID-19 crisis, of the way they are dealing with the citizens, some of the decisions that they're making. And one thing I do want to underscore and reiterate, and all of you touched on when Lima said the needs of the many outweigh the wants of the few, when Michelle said that we as citizens have the power, I have to reiterate those 2 points because we have yet, as Trinbagonians, to tap into that power that we have. We're getting to see it in certain instances. I think we're only just getting to realize just how much our voices and us standing up together on a topic can make. I watched yesterday as once again Trinbagonians united against a common enemy, this woman, Susie Hadid, who thought that she can refer to herself as a 1%. And she saw the power and the strength of the 99% who stood up to her and against what she was saying. It's you see it in our politics as well, and I think these citizens for once are starting to realize just the true extent of what standing up together can look like and will look like if we continue to do it. Today is Thursday, April 20th Thursday, and I will take this opportunity to wish all of my Christian community and wider Trinidad and Tobago and the globe, because I know we have listeners all across this planet. I take this opportunity to wish you a happy and holy Easter. And remember, of course, always during this period of self isolation, let's stay together by staying apart. Bye bye.
Bye.